Going on, Mr. Ship? How you
What-
doing?
What's going on?
Welcome
I'm
to the
doing real good,
pod.
man. Real blessed, real good.
Good, good,
2021.
good,
Right
good.
in.
Yeah, right. Hopefully, something a little bit better than
Yeah.
what we've been getting used to. But yeah, welcome to
Yeah.
episode 2 of Under 1 Million. I'm gonna go ahead and let Mr. Ship introduce himself. Go take it away.
Yo, what's good? What's good? What's good? My name is Darius Ship, also known as Mr. Ship as a producer. I'm a singer, songwriter, and producer, part of the hip hop collective called The Pack. Shout out to Kid Saturday. Shout out to Jalen Musa the God. Shout out to DJ JC. And shout out to every single artist that I've been working with as a producer or a writer. What up?
So you just saying that just hit a point, and this is one of my questions. So you guys are an official collective, and you call yourself the Pack. How
Uh-huh.
did y'all? Because
Yeah.
I know I've placed Kid Saturday on the list before. But how did y'all come to meet each other, and how did you guys get started together making music?
Uh, yeah. Just basically through music. We're all from different parts of the world. Like Kid Saturday. I'm not even quite sure where Kid Saturday is from. For some reason, I want to say Virginia or something like that. Um, and then Jalen Moose is from Louisiana. Um, and DJ JC, I'm not sure where DJ JC is from anyway, but we all came together through music. I want to say Kid Saturday was sort of like the catalyst. He was the one that sort of got everyone together because he was doing a lot of collaborations on the project he was working for. That's how he met Jalen Musa. And then him and I did a couple songs together. And then we all just came together at a show one time and, just talked about music and realized that, our musical styles lended well to one another. And yeah, then we started working together. And that's how the Pack became the Pack.
It's funny you
So
say
yeah.
that because your music styles absolutely blend together really well, and I
Yeah.
would have never guessed that y'all were from different areas and have you even met each other, to be honest?
No, not until
Okay.
until Kid Saturday moved to Los Angeles. I'm originally from San Diego, grew up in California my whole life. And then Kid Saturday moved down here and, he was to do music, specifically to do music and pursue his dreams. And that's sort of how we connected. We had a mutual friend who was his manager at the time. Shout out to Mama Tesco. But yeah, she linked us up together. And aka Leilani, she linked us up together, and we did one song, and then it was really great. It was my favorite part of the song. My single called "Get Back to You, Get Back Home" or something like that. It was from a few years ago, and I love the song. And Kid Saturday killed his verse, and yeah, we just had a working relationship from then on. Took us a couple years before we really even did anything else after that. We were just, fans of each other's music and were supporting each other. And then he dropped the album, had a show, and when that album dropped, he had featured Jalen Musa, and we all got together at this show, and then boom, we're working together. It just happened that easy, man. I mean, when it clicks, and
Isn't that
that's
kind
the
of
rest is history, like they say.
No, I feel you. Isn't that kind of crazy how things have changed from, um, handing out mixtapes in a parking lot somewhere to now, where you basically have free access to reach out to whoever you want to reach out to. You might not get a response, but it's just crazy
Yeah.
how easy it is to work with people these days.
Yeah, most def. It is. And I grew up, I'm an 80s baby, so I came up in the 90s. And so we didn't have the internet, I think right when I, graduated high school, obviously we had the internet then, but we weren't using it like that. Social media was just sort of taking off. When I got into college, it was like MySpace was the big thing,
Yeah.
and people would promote their music that way. But it really wasn't at the forefront pushing, this sort of pushing this sort of genre or whatever you want to call it, like it is now. And where this is how people do business now, remotely, via email, via DMs, all that stuff. So it was a lot harder to get noticed and to sort of connect with people. But now, man, it's so easy. You can just do it. But I think with our group, it was a mixture of both, because we all met in person first, and then it sort of went from there.
Okay.
And then we supported one another from afar. But I think that personal connection really helps solidify, the team.
Do you? I mean, do you enjoy I don't, because I don't want to say simplicity, because it's with social media and all that, it's far from simple, but
Yeah.
just the ease of being able to talk to other people through the internet. Do you enjoy that? I mean, or do you think it hinders other aspects of making genuine music? I'm strictly speaking of business aspects of working in your
Mm.
music. Do you think it's easier now, or does it create new problems that have arisen since it started?
Well, it's both. I think it's both. And I think that's how it is as technology and things change regardless. You know, we're creatures of habit, obviously, so that plays a big role in it. We're used to things being a certain way. So when things change drastically, it's hard for us to sort of get out of our old ways and sort of adapt to this new sort of thing. So that plays a big role in it. But the technology is definitely a blessing, man. I can reach so many different people from all over the world and have genuine connections. If you put in that time and that effort with your relationships, you can have genuine connections with people that you haven't met before. And you can make some great music with people that you've never met before. And that's amazing. I'm sure anyone from any era would look at that and view that as a positive. I don't care who they are. That's amazing. That's an amazing thing. But there are downsides to that. Collaborating with someone in person, you can be with them. You can get their feedback right there in real time and change things and make things, perfect for all parties involved. It's just a lot easier to collaborate when you have someone right there and you can just turn to them and say, "Hey, man, does this sound whack?" Or, what I'm saying? They can tell you, "Yeah, it's just whack." Or, it's a lot harder when you're trying to, especially as a producer. I think about this as a producer, and I'm making a song or record for an artist. And I'm trying to, I listen to their music and I'm trying to imagine what my version of their sound is. That's a little difficult. And then you send it to them. It's a lot of back and forth that probably wouldn't exist if you had that artist right next to you and you can get their feedback in real time right then. That's the only downside. But other than that, it's a beautiful thing. I don't knock it. I love it.
That's really interesting, because I've never been into producing. I've never made beats myself. So how does that normally go for you anyway? I know it's probably different for everyone, but if you get an artist that wants to link up with you on a record, how does that process normally go? Are you reaching out to artists yourself? Do you have a lot of artists reaching out to you? What's the norm?
Right now, neither. I'm not reaching out to many artists, and not too many artists are reaching out to me. Something I'll probably be doing a lot more in this upcoming year. I'll be reaching out to a lot more artists in an attempt to get my name out there a little bit more. But typically a lot of my relationships come from people I've worked with, and then they know artists, and then their artists hear what I've worked on, and they want to work with me. And that's an amazing feeling, for one, when people hear your work and they really enjoy it from someone that they trust, and then they want to spend their money with you. So that's how I've gotten a lot of my work. As far as working with the specific artists, I sell beats online, so my beats are available for anyone to purchase. And in that sense, I'm just making stuff that I like, and I'm hoping that in this big world of ours, someone else likes it and wants to pay for it. But when I'm working one-on-one with an artist, I usually sit down with them if I can. And usually the first session is just a lot of talking, trying to figure out where they're at in their project, if it is a project, or sort of ideas of sounds that they want to incorporate into the song. Usually artists come with reference tracks too. They have a song that, that inspired them and that they want to sort of capture a sort of vibe. And then we just go from there. We just build. Oh, my bad, man. It's got a little dark here.
Oh, you're good.
Then we, and then we just build that way. And we have a couple of sessions. We'll have a session where I sort of call it a consultation, where we just talk. And then the second session will be where we actually sit down and start making the beat. And they're usually writing and I'm playing random things, usually from scratch, just to see what works. And then on that second session, the artist will leave with a reference track, a beat, and then they'll go and write to it. And then we'll have our final session once they've written their full song. And then that's when I tailor the beat to what they've written. And then they have a whole song, built around what they write.
Right. I got to ask you this question because I've heard a few different stories from a few producers and artists alike. Have you ever gotten stuck in a situation where you're really not vibing with this guy's style or whatever, whoever the artist is that you're working with, but it just kind of had to force yourself through it to continue working, or you just cut that off? Like, if you don't vibe, you're just like, all right, this isn't gonna work, let's stop this.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that. I'm one of those artists from the era where I was influenced by a lot of different styles of music, so I can work with anyone and create any type of music, even if it's not my music. If a country artist wants to come in here and sit down, I can produce a country record. I know how that works, and I know how to make that happen. And even though that's not my cup of tea, I understand it. I know enough of it to be able to create it. So I would never just stop a session or stop working with an artist because I thought, oh, this artist isn't the type of artist that I would typically work with. Nah, I work with everyone, but I have been in situations where I've worked with artists who are not as seasoned as you would want them to be. But I take those opportunities as rather than shitting on that person. Obviously, you don't want to do that because you put yourself in their shoes. You wouldn't want anybody shitting on your dream. This is your dream. This is what you want to do with your life. You don't want somebody to shitting on that dream. So hopefully you get in the studio with somebody like me who can see that you're a little rough around the edges, and instead of telling you you're rough around the edges and you never make it, I'll just work with you and just give you sort of tips in that session. Again, when artists come work with me, these are people who were, I was recommended to them. So,
Gotcha.
People speak highly of me and then recommend me, and I don't want to tarnish that. So, you sit down with me, man, I'm gonna take care of you regardless, even if you're whack.
All you whack artists out there, this is your guy. He's gonna fine-tune your music. Give him a call.
Whack artists, man. It's just like, I think the term rough around the edges is perfect. It's somebody who just hasn't honed in on their craft. They either haven't found their sound, they're trying too hard to sound like someone else. There are a number of reasons why you would consider an artist whack, but I think being a part of this sort of community, like, it's our jobs to sort of like to try to help when we can. So especially being a producer and being the person who's like putting this whole song together, like, you got to be able to sort of coach and guide the artists that you're working with to make the best possible song that they can make. And so I think that's what I'm trying to say. Instead of hindering them or stopping the session, I'm going to coach them to make the best possible product. And they'll probably leave with the best song they've ever made.
I think that's dope, and because I've worked with a lot of producers. Well, actually, let me. For anybody listening that doesn't know, there's a distinct difference between a producer and a beat maker. They're completely different things, and I think a lot of people get that mixed up. Even artists are like, just reach out to anybody that makes beats, and hey, can you make me this beat? And a lot of times, they can't do it because they're just beat makers. They're just going in there, want to make their own sound, and don't really know how to make that connection with that artist. Can you, from you being a producer, can you kind of explain the difference between the two?
The first thing. The first thing I would say is that this conversation is like deep in the producer and beat maker community, and a lot of times when I see this conversation, it's people trying to use it as a way to to state their status, and I don't like that. Like, they're trying to say that there's a hierarchy. You just make beats. You're not a real producer, and I don't like that part of the conversation. We're all making music at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, the same product is put out, a song, whether you coach the artist, whether you did all this extra stuff, or you just clicked in some buttons. At the end of the day, there was a beat made, there was lyrics, and they came together, and there was a song. We're doing the same shit. What makes different is your level of involvement. And no matter how involved you are, that doesn't make you any less or any more. And I wish that, people would stop trying to like flex, to prove that they're better than someone else. Because to me, I think that shit is corny. I mean, just do your thing and let the other person do their thing. At the end of the day, all that matters is the final product, the song. The song is good or the song is whack. That's how I judge any producer or beat maker. But the difference, I would say, is, like I said, the level of involvement. A beat, and I'm both. I make beats and I just post them online, and then people come and buy them if they like them. That's the beat maker.
I want to make this clear. I'm definitely not knocking any beat makers. That's not what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I know you're not.
Yeah.
But like I'm saying, this is it's a serious conversation within the producer community, and it's something that I see a lot. And I just want to, before I state the difference, I just want to let everyone know that I don't view it as one better than the other, because I'm both. I make beats and I just post them online, and that's it. That's my level of involvement. People buy it, and then they go and do their thing with it. Hopefully they do the right thing, and they take my beat, they get it mixed and mastered, and they do it the right way. Some people just get on it and get on their phone and record over the beat, and that's a song, but that's another story altogether. But anyway, I do that, but I also produce full records, and I produce full albums. I work with artists on their whole album. I've done that with Kid Saturday. We're working on another project. More than likely, we'll have something with Jalen Moose in the future, and a couple other artists. So I sit down with the artists. I talk to them about their record. I give suggestions about records. I give suggestions on lyrics sometimes. I give suggestions on how the artist is using their voice. Maybe they need more fluctuation. Maybe they need to be a little bit quieter here. Maybe so a producer doesn't even have to make the beat. Someone else can make the beat, and then the producer can come in and put all the elements together. So I think those are the main differences. The producer is more like a director of a movie, and a beat maker is like the director of photography or something like that. The director of photography, obviously this is an important role. You're shooting everything. You're in charge of all these shots, but it's the director who puts it all together. He deals with the actors, he deals with the producers, he deals with the director of photography, and everyone. He puts all the pieces together and makes the movie come to life. And that's what a producer does, music producer.
I could not have explained that
better myself.
No, that makes 100% sense. And I think DJ Khaled is a good example of that. I personally, I don't even know how much he's involved with making beats that are on his projects at all.
Not much anymore.
I was gonna say, I don't even know if he does it at all anymore. But
not much anymore.
He's still a producer though, man. He puts all that shit together, and it's super impressive.
Exactly. Khaled is funny. He's more of a producer, like a producer would be on a movie set, where he funds his projects, and that's why he's DJ Khaled. He fronts the money, he pays the artists through that he gets to work with, and then at the end of the day, he owns a substantial amount of what he's put together, these albums that he puts together, because he does everything out of his own pocket, right? But he finds the beats, and then he goes into the studio and works with the artists. He puts his little ad-libs on the record. I'm sure during the mixing and mastering, he's involved. So yeah, Khaled, and it's a perfect example. Another example is Diddy, P. Diddy. P. Diddy wasn't a producer, he was an exec, but then he got into, producing. He was behind the boards, mixing and mastering. But he's a producer. He puts it all together. He coaches the artist. You've seen it on Making the Band and shit like that. That's what Diddy does, but he's never in there on the MPC, making the beat, right?
Right. No.
So I think the people like that are perfect examples of the difference between a beat maker and a producer.
Are you a fan of Royce at all? Royce 5'9"?
Yeah. I don't listen to him like a lot. I had like a little stint in college where I listened to him a little bit. it was while he was beefing with Eminem and all D12 and all that. So a homie of mine was putting me up on game, telling me how dope he was. So I would listen to his records during that era a little bit. But I haven't listened to a lot of his most recent stuff.
Because he actually just got into producing himself, and it's funny to me how an artist so seasoned, you know what I mean? He's probably the epitome of a veteran in hip hop, and he's just now starting to produce, make his own beats and things like that, and he's super dope at it. I mean, he produced his entire new project, and I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head now, but and you know, it almost added a new layer to his music, and his creativity as an artist. And there's a difference between artists that can produce their own shit and artists that can't. And I'm saying that as an artist that cannot produce my own stuff. I just can't. I can't do it, man. I can't do it. But yeah, I don't know if you've heard it yet. Have you heard his new album yet or not?
I haven't heard his new project yet, but I did know that he was producing. I've watched a couple of YouTube videos or stuff of him actually in the studio making beats and stuff and talking about it.
I would highly recommend listen.
Yeah, I'd say, you know, I love that. I love how you describe that of how it affects the sort of end result of his projects. And all of the greats that I sort of like, you know, and listen to, and you know, a lot of my influences are old school, like R&B cats. So you know, I think of, when I think of like producer, singer, songwriter, I think of like people like Stevie Wonder. My bad, I went dark again. I think of like you know, Stevie Wonder, who would produce his own records, and you know, he created his own sound and things like that. And there's just a difference between artists like that and artists who, you know, who are produced, or artists who don't write their own records and things like that. You can just sort of, the music sort of resonates with you a little bit deeper, and you feel their connection to the music more. And so that makes 100% sense to me that Royce would now be making this sort of new sort of sound, and will be elevating his sound by just simply creating the music himself. Because now you've touched every part of it. So it's like your DNA's on everything, you know? So this is 100% you, you know? Not to say that you can't get that with a producer. You can, if you work closely with the producer and can really articulate what it is that you're trying to create. That's a real good skill for an artist to have. If you can articulate what it is, even deeper than a reference track, say, hey, I like this track. But if you can say why you like this track, you can say what elements in this track make it dope, and what you want to bring to this track, then you can start to put your DNA onto these beats, and it doesn't sound like it's two different worlds coming together. It sounds like it's just one work of art that's created by one person.
I have to say that I think that's something that you do, and this is why I wanted to bring Royce up. This is something you do in your music. No, not just the beats you make or your production credits, but your actual music as an artist.
Yeah.
You can tell that it's you on both. It's you on the beat, and it's you on the vocals, and you can tell it all comes together in almost like an abstract way that just makes sense for some reason. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I just wanted to give you kudos there, man, because I love your shit.
Thanks. I appreciate it. You know, I'm trying to do my thing. You know, my focus this year is going to be more on the production. So I don't think I'll be releasing that much music. And maybe if I do, it'll be more on the instrumental side. But I'll never stop writing songs. I'll never stop creating my own music, because that I love it. I started as an artist, as a singer-songwriter. And I would just produce records as reference to give to my producers, right, that I worked with. So I would, you know, make these half-ass songs and then bring it to somebody who could really play an instrument or could really do something, and hopefully they could recreate it. And then that just turned into me sort of falling in love with production and falling in love with creating the music. And I've sort of been straddling the fence trying to do both. I think, like Royce, it's when you bring up Royce, what I was thinking was that, you know, it's I'm not surprised that he mastered production, because he spent all his life mastering lyricism and, you know, writing dope rhymes. And when you're that focused on one thing, you don't have time for anything else. You bring that focus in like a laser. And now that he's mastered lyricism, and it's safe to say he's a master lyricist, he's been one for a long time, he can now take that focus and put it towards something else. So I'm sure he is as laser focused on making beats as he was when he was writing his rhymes. And so it makes sense. And I'm sort of the same way. And so now I'm sort of 100% focused on production now. We'll see where that takes me. You know, hopefully where it took Royce.
Yeah, we're gonna get there someday. Now this is actually a completely different aspect of artistry, and I feel like this is something that no one thinks about. At least the casual fan doesn't think about. But your actual artwork for the music that you put out. Now you put your own artwork together, correct?
Yeah.
And you can tell somebody. I feel like you take very much pride in putting your album artwork together, or your single artwork together, whatever it is, for your own music. So what do you think the importance of having an artwork that represents your record or album correctly, or at least the way you want it to be represented? What do you think the importance of the album artwork is these days?
I think it's extremely important. Every aspect of creating that record, or creating, you know, an album, whatever you want to call it, is important, and that's just as important. And it's not something to just be thrown to the side, because you know, we've heard the saying, you know, don't judge a book by its cover, and this and that and the third. But this is what we do. This is what we as people do. You know, we look at things and we compare things, and I like this, I don't like that, based on how they look solely. So cover art is extremely, extremely, extremely important. Like I think about, you know, as a producer, as a lover of music, I like to find new music all the time. And when I'm looking for just random new music, cover art a lot of times is what makes me click on something, right? When I see a piece of art that's just intriguing, and I'm like, oh man, this is dope, it makes me want to listen to something. I mean, this is an artist that I've never, you know, listened to. Like if I'm just scrolling on Spotify, typing in things, or I'm on iTunes, looking through some categories, looking through the charts, if I see a cover art that just stands out, I'm going to click on it. And that's what's important about it. You want to have something that's going to, you know, obviously it's got to capture the essence of the album, but it also has to capture the gaze of, you know, the wandering eye, or whatever you want to call it. So that's what I think about when I create my artwork. I want it to be something that's intriguing. I want it to be something that stands out, and I want it to be something that captures the eye on like first glance, that makes people stop scrolling, makes them say, "Oh man, that looks cool. I want to click." Extremely important, man. Extremely important. You can't just like throw that away. And for me, I'm like, a lot of music that I write, they're all these huge metaphors, and you know, you gotta listen to it a couple times to even sometimes understand, like, what the fuck is this dude talking about sometimes. You know, but that's how I write. I don't like to just write, hey, I love you. I like to say it in a, you know, in a cool way. And I like my art to sort of do that too. To sort of like tell a story, not too much, but to just make people think, like, what is this about? And again, make people want to click on it. So, yeah.
So what do you think about a lot of these guys? Because I know I see it every day, and I'll use Russ as an example. I'm a huge fan of Russ, so don't think that I'm shitting on him or anything, but he does it basically this generic artwork. It's like this, you know, they'll change the color of the background and like put a, you know, obviously the title, but the logo is the same. A lot of guys do that now, and I mean, I almost did that. I started doing it with a little series I was going to put out, and he was like, "Yeah," I was like, "You know what? This is stupid. Like, it's a different record. It's a different sound. I don't want it to look the same." So I got off of it quick. But what do you? I mean, do you think that's lazy?
It can be lazy, but it's just got to be. I don't know. It can be lazy, and if it's just done frequently all the time, then then yeah, I would consider that lazy. But you know, we don't know what's going on in that artist's mind, and that just could be there what their aesthetic is. He could just be saying, hey, you know what, I don't want you to worry about my cover art. I don't want you to worry about this music. So I'm just going to give you this bland, you know, piece of art, and hopefully you click on, you know, the music, and that's what you fall in love with, rather than who knows what these people are thinking about. But I see a lot of whack art. I see a lot of stuff that's just thrown together. And I'm more offended by that. I'm more offended by stuff that just looks like it's thrown together and like there's no research done at all. I'm more offended by that than I am of simplistic or, you know, repetitive artwork. Just, you know, people don't really do research. They don't look at, you know, artwork that's out right now. They don't look at what, you know, professional artists are putting out, and they don't compare, and they don't try to, you know, try to make something that's of quality. People are so quick to try to put stuff out, and they drop the ball on so many levels. And to me, I'm offended by that. I just think that's the sign of somebody who really doesn't take this serious. You know, that's somebody who wants clout, and they just want to get out there and put this song out and just fuck everything else. The song is done. Now let's just get it out. I don't have respect for that, man. So that's
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. I think I'm kind of along the same lines of that. I do think maybe sometimes there is a necessity for it, whatever that might be. Yeah. I don't know. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's ugly. I don't, you know, I mean, I don't care enough. It's like, whatever. And I'll be honest, I have been turned off to listening to songs because of that. If I see a generic artwork, I'm just like, he's going to sound like the next guy. So, you know, I think that's a testament to what you said before.
Most def. It's like I said, man, it's important, and people, you know, people shop with their eyes. Even us in the music biz, who, you know, our ears are the most important thing, but we still shop with these eyes too, man. So
for sure. I mean,
part of the game.
Talking about being very visual, with listening to music and you know, the artworks when you're scrolling through whatever streaming platform during your creative process, because I've you know, I've been following you for quite some time now, and whenever I see, you know, your stuff on Instagram, your studio looks super dope. You have a lot of cool like artwork around. I just saw you got some new artwork, I think from your fiance, if I'm not mistaken. You know, that
put up. Shout out my fiance.
How important do you think it is to have creativity surrounding you while you're sitting down to partake in your creative process?
I think it's extremely important. The vibe is important. It's always important. It doesn't have to be like, you know, it doesn't have to be this crazy, you know, dope, amazing studio in order for the vibe to be important. But you have to have things around you that inspire you. You have to sort of, you know, you don't have to be in the mood, but it's so much better when you are, when you're ready to, you know, really create some music. And in order to get there, you got to be inspired by something. So that's different for everybody, obviously. You know, what inspires me in my studio may not be what inspires someone else, but as long as for you, whatever it is that, you know, gets you, maybe, you know, some people, I got to watch some anime before I create, or I got to do this. I got to listen to this record. I got to listen to my favorite songs before I, you know, get it. It's not always about what we visually see. It can be a number of things, but it's about setting the vibe, man. And so for me, it's a combination of both. It's things that inspire me, like music, things that I watch. Like sometimes I watch TV shows and I get inspired to create music. Sometimes I'm reading a book or something and I'll get inspired. Like I read a Stephen King book. I read The Outsider. They made an HBO show about that book. But I read that book and I was like inspired, and I was almost did a whole Outsider album, which will never be released. But but you know, I get inspired by everything around me. Anything that's artistic, I get inspired by, and I try to make, you know, my studio a place like that as well. So I have, dope artwork on the wall, the lights flashing and things like that. All these things sort of just set the mood for me and get me excited about creating.
Do you have
And
any
it's
like,
important for me.
no, for sure. Do you have any routines
Yeah.
or anything you do when you
Um,
know you're going
no,
into the studio?
I don't have a crazy routine because my studio it is enough inspiration for me. So when I walk in here, um, I'm ready. I mean, I see my keyboard, I see everything. It's a musical place. So you walk in here and you're ready to work off top, so it's enough. Yeah, no rituals anymore. But
I got you.
I used to have to, listen to something, listen to some of my favorite records or things like that to sort of get myself in a vibe before I had a studio. That's what I would do. Listen to some Jay-Z, listen to some Stevie, listen to something to sort of just pull me into it. And then I'm like, yes, Eureka,
Gotcha. No, I feel
let's
that.
go.
I've had that
Yeah.
experience before too, for sure.
Yeah.
For you mentioned TV shows, like watching TV and getting inspiration from that. Um, I feel the same. However, I don't really do. I won't sit down and watch a current TV show to get in
Mhm.
the mood or anything, but I do find myself thinking about TV shows that I watched when I was a kid, like stuff that I watched when I was growing up or in my upbringing, and that always
Yeah.
seems to bring something fresh to my writing. Uh, how important do you think it is, like TV shows specifically that we watched when we were younger, and the type of music that you make? Do you see a direct correlation?
Um, I've never thought about that. So my first instinct is to say no. I don't see a direct correlation for my own creative process. But if we broaden it a little bit and we just talk about nostalgia and how important that is for us, um, then yes, I 100% agree um, with you. Not so much older TV shows, because for me personally, like a lot of my favorite old TV shows that I sort of hold dearly in my heart, they're all like old cartoons and shit. Um, I don't draw a lot of inspiration from like old cartoons, but old records. It doesn't even have, for me, it doesn't even have to be TV shows. It can be just old memories and old moments in my life that sort of like inspire me endlessly when I think of things like that. Um, so yeah, I think there is a direct correlation between those sort of nostalgic things that take us back to a certain feeling, um, and that allows us to create something new out of those old feelings. Because that's what it's about, whether it's a TV show or a book. It's about, this thing made me feel really, really good, and it inspired me so much. And if you just take it back to that thing, then you can sum up those old feelings again, and then boom, you're back in that state. you know
What are some
so
of the things that you,
nostalgia is very important. Yeah.
for sure, what are some of the things that you tend to gravitate to, like more often than others, when
Old records for sure. um
any
you know
specifics that you'd be willing to share?
well, Stevie Wonder's entire catalog, that's my favorite artist of all time, Stevie Wonder. I like James Brown a lot. um when it comes to hip hop, I was a big Jay-Z fan growing up. So any of Hov's old records, inspire me. I was a huge Biggie fan. I was a big East Coast hip hop fan.
Gotcha.
So a lot of the East Coast hip hop artists, even though I grew up in the West Coast, I listened to all their music for whatever reason. Maybe because my dad's from the Bronx, I don't know, but I listen to a lot of hip hop, East Coast hip hop stuff. So all that old East Coast hip hop stuff from the 90s, early 2000s, that always inspires me, especially the production from that era. Production was so crazy and so out of this world during that era in hip hop. So, old Timbaland stuff, old Neptunes and Pharrell stuff, very, big influences on my life. Um, Comic books uh, is a big thing. When we were younger, like my older brother would draw, and so we all started drawing, all started, getting into comic books. So I have a couple comic books that I, just hold on to, and I'll flip through the pages sometimes and get inspired. Yeah, ton of stuff, bro. There's a ton of stuff that that I use to sort of like spark creativity, to spark the vibe.
That's dope. I gotta ask this because a lot of times when I listen to your instrumentals, specifically, because I scroll through your BeatStars page quite often. I have to admit. um, so what genre of music would you say that you make? I feel like genres are just kind of they're getting more and more blurred lines as we go because it is hip hop, but then sometimes I'll listen to something that you make and it's like I don't really know how to categorize that. So how would you categorize it?
Yeah. Man, hopefully, hopefully it just starts to become my own sound. That's the goal for me now. Is that it becomes my own sound, and when people hear my shit, they just think that that's Darius. Because I've been influenced by so many different things, and they all find their way into my music. I can't just make generic trap music. I can't just make generic hip hop music. I have too much shit floating on in my head to do that. So I have to find a way to bring all these sort of elements, Stevie Wonder, the Beatles, shit like this, all these different sort of huge influences on my life musically, that I sort of take and pull from and put together. So it's hard for me to sort of categorize my sound, but but it is hip hop and it is R&B. And I say short answer is that's what it is. It's hip hop, it's R&B. It may not be like what you're used to hearing currently. I like to sort of be in that lane, but just a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right, when I create my own music. So it's something different. So it sets me apart. But it's still hip hop. It's still R&B, man. At the end of the day, it has those elements. It has those grooves that that we're all so familiar with and that we all love. So.
I think that's what draws me to your stuff so much is because when I listen to it, it's the type of beats or the type of production that I wish I was able to lay down some rhymes over. To be honest, I'm not super inclined to do a lot of slower stuff, and I feel like that's kind of your niche. You do a lot of slower type beats.
Yeah.
Maybe not in the actual BPM, but with just the vibe of it.
The vibe of it, yeah.
Yeah, and I enjoy that, but I can't make it myself. So, but that's why I say I find myself scrolling through your stuff all the time, for that one perfect beat that I think I'm gonna get on. I did make a record to one of your beats a while back. I don't know if you even know if you remember at this point, but
I don't remember the beat, but I remember. Now it's whatchamacallit, because your hook was stuck in my head for a long time. So I had your hook. I remember your hook more than I remember my own beat.
Yeah, it was called Run.
I can't remember it.
It was called Run.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought that beat was super dope. Incredibly simple, but it was just phenomenal to me. And that's a lot of your stuff too. You don't overthink it, at least from what I can tell. Do you have any dream credits that you would love to get under your belt? Dream credits.
Man, that's a really, really interesting question. And I would imagine, like, if you ask any producer, they would start listing names right off the bat. But for me, I really don't think about that. And the reason why I don't think about that is because it's not my aspiration to be I never really saw myself as an industry producer. I sort of saw myself as this underground world being my world where I sat and just being a success in this world. It doesn't have to be a household name. I don't have to be, on the cover of Double XL or whatever magazine motherfuckers is reading at the time.
Nobody reads anything anymore.
So I never really, I never really think about, oh man, I would love to work with this mainstream artist, probably because I never saw myself in that world. But when I think about some of my favorites, I can toss those names in. Like, it would have been amazing to work with Hove, with Jay-Z. I keep saying Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder's still making records. It would have been amazing to work with Stevie Wonder. You know, but really I don't think about working with these mainstream artists. I prefer working with artists that are underground, that are upcoming, and people that are on this sort of level, that are on my level. You know, as we continue to grow and get on higher levels, obviously that may change. The people around me will change. But yeah, I don't really have any aspirations to like, oh, I gotta work with Uzi or I gotta work with this person and that person. I don't think like that. You know, I'm happy working with, you know, the underground artists who are on to come up just like me.
I respect that. I think that's
Yeah,
the only way to grow healthy anyway. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It's, you know, you can't rush it, and especially in an artistic space, you can't try to be someone that you're not, because it's easy to
yeah,
see through that. You know what I'm saying?
hmm yeah, most definitely.
That's dope. That's dope. Well, I don't know. I'm about wrapping it up here. We're reaching or almost reaching an hour, and I'm
Okay.
trying to limit these episodes to an hour.
Yeah,
Um, you know, just to keep it more to the point and things like that. But I would love to have you back on. To be honest, this is the whole thing I'm
yeah,
trying to do here. Is free form. You know what I'm saying?
hmm
Free form pod.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
so I'd love to have you back on one day for sure. But is there
yeah,
anything right
most
now
definitely.
that you're looking to promote, push out there, heavy?
Um, you know, I don't have any projected projects that are coming out right now. I have some concepts in the work for 2021. Obviously, this is going to be a big year for a lot of people, um, and everyone's, you know, in high spirits. You know, hoping that this will be an amazing year. And with that vibe in mind, I have a lot of ideas, sort of uplifting concepts. So I'm sure there will be some stuff in the near future. But only thing I have to plug is just my BeatStars. It's Mr. Shipp, beatstars.com. Check out some of the beats. I'm doing giveaways on Tuesdays. So free beat giveaways every Tuesday. Just check me out on Instagram at Mr. Shipp. And you can get yourself a free beat here and there. Other than that, man, that's it, man. I'm just focusing on growth this year. Focusing on stepping up the production to another level, and focus on growing, man. That's an artist, and that's really it. But I'm sure there'll be some stuff coming in the near future for sure.
Well, I appreciate you you coming on and sitting down and talk with me, and I think that's this is exactly how I expected this sit down to go. You just seem like a super humble dude, and just trying to grow not only in your music but in life, and I respect that. And I'm on your coattails, man. I'm a fan of yours for sure. I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
Bro, I appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. It means the world, man. For real. For
For
real.
sure. But I'm gonna anything that he just mentioned, I will tag down below for anybody listening. So definitely check Darius Ship out and stay tuned. I
Yeah.
appreciate you coming on, brother. All
All right, bro. Much love, man.
right, take
Thanks.
it easy. Stay safe.
You too. Peace.